All right, we are cutting across to Lucknow now because there's ruckus in the assembly over there. Let's take a look at these visuals and we'll be getting you details on what exactly has triggered that ruckus and uproar really that we're seeing in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. Well, massive uproars in the assembly in Uttar Pradesh are nothing new. In fact, last time around, just 2 sessions ago, we had seen how there was a sloganeering and shouting in the assembly over the issue of law and order and security. And we're seeing yet again massive scenes of uproar as you can see that there are the MLAs, who are standing and shouting. We've also seen somebody having thrown something at the chair while this massive uproar is on in the UP Assembly for the moment. Now, there are various issues at the moment ranging from law and order situation in the state to the issue of the tragedy that we saw in Kumbh that could be responsible for the uproar in the assembly. And as one could have easily guessed, yet again it's the Bahujan Samaj Party, the Mayawati-led party, that is creating an uproar in the house over the law and order situation in the state. Our correspondent Amir Haq is now joining us with more details. Amir, what exactly is the specific issue? Is there any specific incident that the BSP is raising over here in the assembly?
Ruling party and starting with the law and order situation in the recent stampede that has happened on the 10th of February at Allahabad railway station is on the agenda of opposition. Also, the kind of waiver rules that was promised by the ruling party, the government in relation to the farmers has also not been fulfilled. In fact, that is one of the premise that has been taken up by the BSP members here. Today was the 15th session of the...
All right, we seem to have lost our contact there with our correspondent Amir Haq, who was telling us about the ruckus that has broken out in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. Now, this is with regards to the BSP, the opposition led by Mayawati, that is raising the issue of law and order problems in the state. Look at how her MLAs inside the assembly are behaving. They are standing on the benches to raise slogans. There is absolutely no respect for the house, for the assembly, as furor continues in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly, because we have seen scenes like these in the past as well in the UP Assembly. Of course, in the past we've also seen people throwing paperweights at each other in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. This time, however, we've seen papers being flung at the chair. While uproar continues in the house, we're also seeing MLAs from the opposition walking into the well of the house and stopping the proceedings of the assembly. At the moment, the issues range from the law and order situation in the state, and they're saying, as one can read the slogans about Akhilesh Yadav and how, as a chief minister, he has failed in improving the law and order situation in the state. Amir Haq is back with us. Amir, you were talking about the ruckus that the BSP MLAs are creating in the UP Assembly. Take us through the issues they are trying to raise. Even as we can see Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav there sitting along with Azam Khan and not really bothering about this kind of confusion and chaos breaking out in the Assembly.
Yes, actually, this is quite on the expected lines. In fact, the opposition members yesterday, in fact, the main opposition party, BSP, had also boycotted the all-party meeting, which is mandatory before the start of the session. BSP had boycotted it. The BJP, another opposition party, had in fact declared yesterday, said that it won't participate in the opening speech of the governor here. To start with the budget session. Well, the premise is not just law and order, but also the kind of incident that happened in Allahabad. All the opposition is united against the ruling party, saying that they did not make adequate arrangements at the Kumbh Mela, and that was what resulted in the stampede and loss of life of 36 people on the 10th of February. Apart from that, there are issues, concerning farmers and weaker sections of the society that the BSP very vociferously says has not been taken up by the government the way it was promised in the last year's budget. Also, Maha, let me say here, let me tell you that very pertinent is the utilization of last year's budget. The opposition parties are united in saying that only 45% of last year's budget, which was tabled in the Assembly last year, has been utilized by various departments of the government. And apart from that, 55% of the money that was allotted to the government has not been used. Well, in that case, they say that the Chief Minister has no right to put forward another budget for the next financial year. Chief Minister, also being the finance minister of the state, is obviously held accountable for what has happened in the state over the last 1 year.
All right. Amir, also we saw the governor standing there for his address and papers being flung at him from the opposition side. Did they also at least bother to at least listen to what the governor had to say?
Well, the governor's opening speech is always prepared by the ruling party, the government. So it was very well known to the opposition, the BSP in particular, that his speech will go on to eulogize the achievements of the government over the last 1 year. And therefore, they did not even care to listen to what the governor had to say and started shouting slogans, showing up their placards and slogans that they had written. And also, started throwing paper balls at the governor. Therefore, the governor has hurriedly finished off his speech and left the state assembly.
Also, when are we expecting things to normalize in the UP Assembly and for the session to be conducted in a smooth fashion? Are we likely to see these scenes continue for some days, or today was just a token gesture, so to say?
Today is the opening day. For the time being, the assembly has been adjourned till 12:30. We might see unruly scenes again when the House sits at around 12:30. But after that, there is a 3-day break when the session will again convene on the 18th. 19th is the day when the budget has to be tabled. So till then, very little time for the assembly to sit down and discuss on anything. And most of the din that we see here will most probably continue on the 19th also, when the budget will be tabled.
Amir, what are the opposition leaders telling you? I mean, creating this sort of ruckus repeatedly in the House, not listening to the governor's address. What purpose does it serve? At the end of the day, the assembly is there for people to discuss issues. Why don't they do it in a smooth fashion?
Well, individually, people do say, senior leaders do say that it is very disappointing that such kind of protest has to be raised for their voices to be heard. But collectively, when it comes to talking about the party on the whole, they feel that unless and because Samajwadi Party has a majority out here over 224 seats, so the opposition has hardly any say in the conduct of affairs of the assembly. So till the time they raise a ruckus and let their voices be heard through the media, they believe that their contentions on the way the government is functioning will never be heard.
Amir, let's also get in a word from Shahid Siddiqui. He would know best how the politicians in Uttar Pradesh really behave. Sir, we see scenes like this repeatedly in the UP Assembly. Now we are also seeing Akhilesh Yadav really sitting and not even bothering to react to these unruly scenes in the Assembly. At the end of the day, what purpose is served when people are not willing to sit quietly and discuss issues?
It's not only UP, this is happening all over the country. This is happening in the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, everywhere. The politicians don't understand that people just totally abhor, totally dislike this kind of behavior. They are not endearing themselves to the people of this country by doing this. And I think the time has come when the media should learn to ignore these, because this is done in order to get the media attention, in order to get the attention of the people. The thing that if they don't have the majority, they can get the attention by behaving this way. So media should absolutely boycott and ignore this kind of behavior of the politicians, and I think they will come to their senses if that is done.
But Mr. Siddiqui, it's very difficult to ignore a situation where we see opposition members flinging paper balls while the governor is trying to deliver his speech.
I understand that, but we must also understand that many times, whether it is in the public domain or it is in the assemblies, lot of such behavior comes out of their, they want attention, they want to be noticed, and we by ignoring them, we are going to teach them a lesson. Politicians have to be taught a lesson. I feel ashamed because assemblies were created, parliaments were created for debate, for discussion. Democracy is all about debate and discussion, not about shouting. You can have a procession outside the assembly. You can shout and do whatever sloganeering you want to do outside the assembly. But assembly is not meant for that, or parliament is not meant for that. This our politicians have to learn, otherwise our democracy will go to dogs. It will be destroyed the way we are using our freedom to shout.
All right, Mr. Shahid Siddiqui, I would request you to stay on with us. We also have with us Akhilesh Pratap Singh. He is a leader of the Congress in Uttar Pradesh. Mr. Singh, disgraceful scenes yet again in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. Paper balls being flung at the governor, the opposition refusing to listen to him. Akhilesh Pratap Singh, are you there with us? All right, we seem to have lost our contact there with the Congress leader. We'll of course go back to him as and when we can reconnect. Shahid Siddiqui, are you still there with us?
Yeah, I am.
All right, Mr. Siddiqui, I also wanted to ask you about the law and order situation in Uttar Pradesh. We've seen that deteriorating under the young Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, who had promised a lot. So isn't this anger in some way justified? I mean, not these scenes, but the angry reactions to the deteriorating law and order.
I understand that the law and order situation has deteriorated very, very badly, but this behavior is not justified. You, by misbehaving in the assembly, you are not helping the law and order situation to improve, number one. Number two, unfortunately, in our country, when any party gets a clear majority, they forget that they have some accountability towards the people. They think that they are there for 5 years so they can get away with murder. And that's what earlier government did, and that's what now the Samaj Party is doing. And they have lost their credibility in just a few months. And the people of Uttar Pradesh who had a lot of hope in Akhilesh Yadav have lost that hope. They expected him to stand up against the goons, against these people who take the law in their hands, but he has failed to do that, and that is extremely disappointing to the people of Uttar Pradesh.
Well, absolutely. We're seeing unruly scenes in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. The Assembly has been adjourned till 12:30 is what our correspondent Amir Haq was telling us earlier on. The opposition refusing to listen to the governor's address as the budget session in the UP Assembly started today. And we could also see young Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav just sitting there along with Azam Khan, not really bothering. Perhaps these scenes were expected on the opening day of the Assembly. Amir Haq, our correspondent, is still with us. Amir, what are the opposition members telling you once the Assembly reconvenes at 12:30? Are we likely to see similar scenes?
Well, yes, Mahat, such unruly scenes are most likely to continue even after the Assembly, convenes at around 12:30 this afternoon. Because, the governor hardly gave them any time as far as the senior leaders from the opposition say to protest and to raise their voices against what the government has been doing over the last 1 year. It is not just the stampede at Allahabad railway station, but a lot of issues that have to do with farmers. Law and order, of course, is the topmost in priority. Then the issue of power crisis, over the last 1 year, that the opposition has been raising at various forums. So these are issues that the opposition says have not been taken care of by the ruling party, and it continues to be so. Therefore, the only option that they have is to raise their voices here by way of protest in the State Assembly.
Also, Amir, what is the reaction that we are seeing from the UP government, from Akhilesh Yadav himself? After all, there is a lot of anger in the state as far as the deteriorating law and order situation is concerned. And he, of course, needs to give answers to the assembly over the stampede in Kumbh as well.
Yes, Maha, the Chief Minister has in fact spoken after, he spoke after 2 days of the incident at Kumbh. Although he did not take much of the blame that was, given to him by the opposition, he says that the arrangements there were absolutely perfect, excellent in nature. It was only perhaps, the railways that could not handle the swelling number of people. But finally, he says, I will not do any politics over the kind of allegations being made about the stampede incident at Allahabad. We'll wait till a final report comes after a detailed inquiry into the matter, and then only we'll speak about it. As far as law and order is concerned, the Akhilesh Yadav government has, over the last 2 weeks, made a number of changes as far as the postings of and transfers of senior IPS officers and DMs, IS officers is concerned. Also, they have inducted into their cabinet about 12 new ministers, state-level ministers as well as 1 cabinet-level minister. After which he says that perhaps the control of the government will improve, not just over the law and order situation, but other problems that the state is facing.
Amir, from the body language of Akhilesh Yadav, it looked like he was expecting these scenes because as you mentioned earlier on as well, they even refused to come to the all-party meeting yesterday, some of the opposition parties. Is that why he was sitting quietly there, not really reacting to the unruly scenes?
Well, Maha, the Chief Minister understands that they have the numbers, the BSP legislators, the Congress ones or the BJP ones might, just create a ruckus. But when it comes to voting, they have a clear majority here in the assembly. So they don't really need to worry about the protest being raised by the opposition parties.
All right, Amir, we are seeing unruly scenes in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly earlier on in the day. That was Amir Haq, our correspondent, reporting on what he saw inside the Assembly as leaders of the opposition party, the BSP, raised slogans against Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav for the deteriorating law and order situation in the state. In fact, they are also demanding answers on the mismanagement at Kumbh and the tragedy and stampede that was witnessed at the Allahabad railway station. The governor was there trying to make his opening speech of the budget session in the UP Assembly, but he was interrupted repeatedly there by opposition members who refused to let him speak. In fact, disgraceful scenes over there with the people throwing paper balls at the governor and also flinging papers from far away at him. They refused to listen to the governor